Hello and welcome to part 16. So first of all, let's do a quick debugging session. Or actually, I did some debugging off video, and what I ended up with doing was I replaced the 10 with the segment length. I realized my problem was that I think I had the branch length factor dragged in. So this is actually a good example of how you need to be very careful with your name. Sometimes if they are too similar, you might end up doing something silly like that. But this is going to give you your 10, so it's a really silly source of a bug here. So you'll also notice that I replaced my line trace by channel by a sphere trace by channel with a radius of 2, and everything is hooked up as it was before. And that allows me to detect, if I can find somewhere, still doesn't completely self-detect, but it should be able to find most of them. You can see they don't directly always, maybe sometimes, but most of the time they seem to be able to avoid each other now. If we set this to 0, then we can see it misses a lot. You could see the difference here, hopefully. Kind of hard to see, but if I change this to maybe 3, then we see it pushes it out quite a lot. That's pretty nice. I'm wondering if it also pushes it out even though it shouldn't. Let me just check that from the side here. No, it looks correct. So I think with the sphere trace by channel is that it takes up some more space. So as you can see here, it traces in a bigger area. So it finds these very thin lines where the line trace would have missed it. So that's the idea behind that. So let's get that out of the way, compile that and save. And let's jump into the generate branch here. I'll set that to none for now. So the thing I also want to tackle is in this video, or try to tackle, is this. Where did they come from? That was from the debug. Okay, sorry. So that's this stuff here. Oh, I have one now, self-colliding. Okay, it's kind of a trade-off. I should take this down, the self-collision detection, to maybe 2. Okay, it's still gonna pick up most of them, but yeah. It depends on how precise you need this to be anyway, and maybe you should even think about doing this in an alternative way. So let's see, if we move close to this one, you can see it snaps in and kind of glues itself onto the surface, and that's what I want to change a little bit here. And in order to do that, what I want to do is to put the camera where I know it's going to go straight up. So right now it does this logic where it's tracing forward, and if it doesn't hit anything, it traces down. And the way I oriented it is that so the down is this way, facing the cylinder here. So it goes up, traces down, goes up, traces down, so on, so on, so on. And when it reaches the cylinder, it's gonna trace up. No, I didn't find anything, and you trace in. I found something, and then it's gonna glue itself to that surface. So instead of that, I'm gonna add some extra logic to this, and I can't say I'm 100% satisfied with what I came up with, but I can't really come up with anything better. So either I wait maybe a week or 2 before I post anything maybe slightly better, or maybe it's gonna be just the same, or I just do it like this and post it right now, and maybe somebody watching this can come up with a better solution or better approach. So inside the generate branch, I have my logic here, the trace forward and the trace down. So I'm going to insert in between the trace down and the trace forward some logic here. If I do my first trace here, I will look at the first trace, the trace forward here. What I want to do is to say, if I hit something, then I want to register that I'm attached. So I'm going to make a variable for that called local attached. And then I'm going to set that to true. So that way I know now I am attached. So when we come down here and start to check if we should trace down, or we actually need to check if we should trace forward. So we're going to make a branch here and saying if we are not attached. I'm going to turn this the other way, so it's kind of not, kind of the opposite. So my head usually spins when I use these not. So I'm gonna say freestanding. So if I'm freestanding, meaning not attached. So it's just a personal preference, because otherwise I spend time looking at this and I can't figure out what the hell did I mean by that. Why did I change it? So if I'm freestanding, then I want to just plot in a point or segment. So if I am attached, then I do want to trace down. So for now, this should be changing the behavior. So you can see it comes up to this point here, and then it starts to trace along the surface as it should. So that's pretty easy. And when we come closer to it, it starts to come into place. So we have a little thing we didn't fix yet. So let me just put that out of the way. And I am just gonna find the yeah, okay, so you can see some points here, they are kind of sticking out. And the thing is, it's happening every time we branch. So it's like sometimes they lose contact. And the reason for that is obviously because hang on a sec. My screen's just screwed up. Come on. Okay. It's because every time we create a new branch, we have the attached to false. So we need to carry this information over from every time we create a new branch. So we need to add this information here and call this attached. And then we want to set our local attached to that. And also when we generate a new branch, we want to make sure to set it here. So whatever this value was set to at the point where we generated a new branch, we're going to make sure that it's set. There we go. Now it glues itself. Very nice. This, however, seems to create an issue here. For example, you can see something funky is going on. And for some reason we didn't have that before. Let me just check something. Okay, we did have it before. Okay, never mind. So I think this is maybe something we now see because we are doing the self-collision stuff. So if I just for a moment disconnect that self-collision trace, we can see we have something looking like this. So it's kind of a little knob or something. And I think I have had that issue all the time, just didn't sort it out. So I'm gonna connect it again and see if I can figure this out. And I can already say I have an idea about what is wrong, but I haven't found, again, the best way to do it. So again, you guys watching this, see if you can come up with a better way, and please do post some comments on the video and tell me what you would suggest to do instead. Because what I do here is actually I do my surface transform, get surface transform, this guy here. I take my impact point, I add the normal to get a slight point forward, and then I output that location. Now the thing is, this point, if we, how do I explain this? If this is a surface, this line down here is a surface, and I have a trace point down here, start point, and I have an end point up here. Then the intersection point is going to be in the middle, so it's going to be here along that line. And if that end point happens to be very close to the surface point, and the start point is still down here, then the intersection point is going to be here, and the end point is going to be here. So they're going to be very close to on top of each other. So I decided to cheat, and by that I mean I am just going to take whatever point, impact point I'm going to get, and I'm going to take the normal along the surface, and I'm going to offset it by the half length of the segment length. So I'm going to do that in here. So right now I take the hit normal and I add that, but that puts it just a little bit above, and that's also what is causing the self-intersection to trigger, because I now have a sphere trace by channel. So that means that now that this point is going to be saying, hey, I need to trace from here to here. Whoa, I intersect with myself, so I'm going to pull it out. So I'm going to take I get my right vector, and I get my rotation here, and then I get my forward vector. So the forward vector is going to be pointing in the forward direction of that rotation. So I'm going to multiply that by float equal to the segment length. To begin with, we could try and use segment length. That's going to give it the entire length of the segment. And we don't really know. I could theoretically see if I can figure some better value, but I'm just gonna add this together like this. And try not to have too many crisscrossing lines here. It's not like I spent too much time in here, but anyway. And then we get this. So that wasn't really the intention, was it? No. No, that was not the intention, because now it's getting too far out. Okay, so this is not optimal. So I'm gonna get a little, that's why I said half of this. I'm gonna divide this by 2, maybe. And now it sticks a little bit better. So hopefully we should get rid of some of that weirdness. It's still doing some funky stuff along the surface now. It still seems to push it out here. So there's definitely space for improvement, but now you can get very close to a surface and it's not gonna like glue itself instantly, which is quite an improvement, I would say. And we can now drag it underneath. I also think it fixed some issues here. It's because it's going to create a nicer curve. I think we had some issues before. I didn't really pay attention to it, but I think this is a better approach. But yeah, let me know if you have good ideas for how to improve this. And we have the self-intersection stuff working still. So yeah, I guess this was what I wanted to cover in this video. 15 minutes, so that was one of the shorter ones. Next video, I'm gonna take a look at some optimization stuff. And yeah, it's gonna be, I'm gonna talk more about that in the next video. So for now, I'm just gonna leave it here and encourage you guys to really take a look at this, see if you can decipher what I did. Hopefully you can. It's not really that complicated, it's just a mess. And see if you can come up with a better idea than what I did here. I should maybe comment this. I can do this all in video, but yeah, for you guys watching this, I'm not really going to be doing anything new for now. So just going to comment this. So this stuff here is going to be pull point along the surface. This is what it's doing. And we add the normal here. And that's just to make sure that the point is not on the surface. I can't really figure out a better way to explain this. But generally, yeah, it's just so it doesn't self-intersect immediately. And then we have generate tree, no, generate branch. Comment this and say something like, yeah, well, it's about the attached stuff. And all the rest we didn't touch at all. This is just initialization. And then we have the render, get surface normal, no, what was it called? Self collision trace. So this is definitely something we want to comment. Maybe even make up some more space here. So we can organize this a little bit nicer. So the idea here is this has the direction of the trace, and then I pull start point forward, so I don't with so I don't self-intersect with the previous section. Yeah, that's what it does. I hope these comments are gonna be useful. And the sphere trace is being used to sphere trace used to detect thin segments, if I ever wonder why I did that. And then I have something here. Why do I get the object on the distance? I should actually convert this into okay, if you guys are watching still, I'm gonna make a little change anyway. I am gonna take this one and I'm gonna promote that to a variable and call this self push something, which I'm gonna put on the branch, and that's gonna be fine for now. I'm gonna set a default value for this one, I think. Actually, let's set, okay, so this is supposed to be negative. So I'm gonna take this because it's more gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be more intuitive if you set a positive value, I would say. So I'm gonna multiply that by -1, and then let's set this to like 10 per default. Actually, let's set it to default to null, 0. And then calculate push per out position if segment intersects. And the rest here is kind of self-explanatory. This part here was kind of iffy. Avoid adjusting last point. Still need to figure out this because it still means that if it's the second last point, then it's gonna miss. It's not gonna trace, and it's kind of a bummer. I definitely need to redo some of this stuff here, but I guess this should be enough comments here in order to understand most of what I did. Yep. I think that's it for this video. Let's give it a look once more. And I should now have a self intersection. So let's set this to 10. Very nice. You can actually see it up here. Now we can adjust it in real time. So we should have some self intersection along this backside here. So things are gonna get pushed out, so they don't go directly through each other. And since it is the endpoint I adjust, they might still intersect slightly, as you see here, because the endpoint might be out here. And the starting point might be very, very close to the actual intersection point. So strictly speaking, I should maybe adjust both the start and the end point, now that I think of it. So I push both out. Maybe I should figure out the distance to the intersection point and then push out of the... but if I push out the start point and I need to modify the end point of the previous point segment, that's going to be shitty. So I guess this could be done differently. Let's just conclude that for now. And let's also conclude this video by saying hope to see you in the next, and bye bye.